Would you prefer a worldly leader or another worldly leader? Let's look at the difference between first what a worldly leader and another worldly leader is. A worldly leader is somebody who has nobody's interest in mind except their own, their personal gains, and how leading a country is going to benefit them and them alone, because that's all they're really concerned about, building up an empire around them so that their businesses work for them and they get their favors that they need, and so on, okay? And they deplete every resource of the planet and really have no concern about what's going on in this world other than trying to attack other countries who are disturbing what they want. That's the basic principles of a world leader. Okay, now an otherworldly leader would be someone who is, or something who is not of the worldly leader fashion or the populace of the world. And there are what I'm talking about when I speak of an otherworldly leader are our creators, okay? And these are beings that don't reside in the same realm that we do on this planet. They watch things to make things go okay. They try to let humans take care of what they need to take care of here, but it seems to be backfiring, as you see from all the rioting going on and all of the other stuff that's happened in this world, wars, what have you. Just too much stuff, okay? Way too much mayhem, debauchery, and murder, and just everything you can think of. Just terrible, terrible deeds. Humans aren't good to each other, and they look out for their own best needs. They'll screw you out of a job just to get a higher paying position, okay? That's how it's working here right now, right? That's what's going on. Okay, now with another worldly leader, now there are creators. I'm talking about the ones that are our creators. If they were to take over this planet, they really would only have one interest, and that's to take care of their creations and to take care of this world so that it doesn't go to rot and be depleted and destroyed and burn up and just basically turn into a mess. This world's been badly mismanaged. We've seen it by forest fires and what have you, wars and everything else. But when we're talking about a otherworldly leader which created us, they would not deplete this world, okay? Now, I've talked about things like universal realm transporters and replicators. Okay, now what if you had a otherworldly leader which created you, and their only best interest is you and this world, and wanted to make sure everybody was happy and make sure they had everything they needed, and wanted to make sure that they didn't have to suffer for things, and that they can get exactly what they want by replicators, a universal realm transporter to be able to travel to other worlds and other dimensional universes. I've discussed this before with other people. People say, what's a universal realm transporter? Well, what it is it makes a linear being capable of traveling to non-linear worlds and become part of other populations, because, well, it opens up vortexes like you've seen in other videos. The alien orb up in the barn, that's an actual vortex that's opened up, and it's allowing these beings that are in this barn to transport to where they want to be. Okay, so that's what they use, a universal realm transporter. I know it sounds comical, but it's not. It's real, okay? Now, what we're talking about in replicators, okay? Now, replicators, humans, here's how you get your goods. Here's how it happens. Okay, you go to a supermarket and you buy what you want. You go to a hardware store and buy what you want. You go to a gas station and buy fossil fuels for a car because you can't afford a car that doesn't run on any fuels and doesn't need anything, okay? Most of us can't. Only the people who have a lot of money get those type of cars, and even then they aren't impervious to needing fuels and what have you. Well, let's look at what a replicator does. What a replicator does is replicate your needs that you need, okay? The items that you need are replicated. They're no longer manufactured, but you replicate them as you need them. In other words, if you wanted a steak for dinner, or say steak, a baked potato, and some salad and dessert, you would put your request into this replicator, and it would literally create this meal for you, and it'd be just as good as the meal that you buy from the store, and actually fresher because it was just created, okay? So a replicator would provide you with your clothing, would provide you with your automobiles that you needed that were environmental friendly. It would provide you with the abilities having a home, maybe homes even in other realms where you can transfer from one realm to the other and go into another another home and still live in the same world solves the population problem, okay? So that becomes not an issue anymore. The smog's not an issue because you're no longer using factories that are putting out fossil fuels out in the air and what have you, all their exhaust, whatever they're using, coals, whatever, creating these things that they're trying to manufacture, because now it's being replicated, and that is the only way to live in a world where it's pristine, okay, where it's not full of garbage and BS. And speaking of garbage, how about having a world where you really don't need any money because, well, you are replicating things now, and it's now being given to you by your otherworldly leader because they want you to have the things that you need to live on this planet. Now, the things that people say, like there are politicians talking about the forest being all overgrown with debris on the ground of it, and that's what's causing forest fires. Okay, now you're thinking of firefighters with trucks that drive around and spray water on fires. Okay, first of all, if you had otherworldly leaders leading this planet, you would no longer need firefighters because the fires would be impossible to start because the environment would be as such that it wouldn't allow it to start, and you wouldn't have debris in your forest floors because, well, they would be removed anyway. They would just be removed by your otherworldly leaders. They would make sure it's a pristine world like their world is. Now, it could go on and on about how perfect things would be. I mean, we're no longer using soaps to clean your body. You just walk into a booth and it cleans you more clean than you are when you get out of a shower, okay? Just on and on. Everything is perfected. Now, the biggest question is, how do you get the otherworldly leaders to come here and take control of what they've created? Good question, right? Well, one of the first ways is the worldly leaders that are here would have to stop and halt chasing them away. They would have to welcome them here. I'll reiterate one of my most famous stories that I've seen is Battle LA, 1942, when they came here and they were trying to make contact with humans, and they were shot at, shot down, lobbed at, and everything else. So they were basically attacked. It's like going into the humans going into another country and being shot at. Then you're going to want to attack back. Those are acts of war. Okay. Instead of trying to find out what they wanted, what their real mission was, they just attack them. Now, there's been other crashes, of course, we know of that we believe happened. We don't know of. They've never admitted to it, but they have had other crashes when the only thing they're interested in is reverse engineering their crafts, and they could care less about the beings, the occupants of the crafts. They just want to reverse engineer these crafts so that they can get what they want out of it to make their world, their government, their military stronger and stronger, and make more bombs and what have you. When this is all unnecessary. So that's what I'm speaking of, about otherworldly beings versus worldly beings as a world government. Now, the problem is, how do you get the worldly beings out of the place of being worldly beings and the otherworldly beings taking over without a war amongst the people, a civil war? Well, you really don't want a war because innocent people are going to get killed. Okay, so what you want to do is have the otherworldly beings become wanted here to a point that there is no war, okay? And so they would have to be accepted for this to happen. And at this point, it's not happening. The majority of the population is happy with their voting system, their government, and what have you, but they just aren't happy with otherworldly beings right now. A lot of them want them all dead. They can't stand them. They think they're taking people and doing things against them. Well, a lot of them are procedures that they're doing to people to try to help them, to make them live long, because we don't have any of the facilities here that they have. In other words, if we were working with them in alliance or as an allegiance with these beings, they could literally be taking care of our people here on this planet. But up until now, everybody's against it. The only way they're ever going to be here is they would have to call for them. It will happen at some point. Probably not in most of your lifetime, not at this particular juncture, the way it's working. Think of wanting to visit your, well, grandson, your granddaughter, your daughter, your son, whoever it may be, your grandma, whatever, and other places in the world. But it always is such an expensive trip to where you've got to pay a high bill on air flight, then you got to pay either motel rooms, hotel rooms, or staying at grandma's, and then you got to bring all this luggage with you and pay for it. It's just a big chaotic mess, so we don't get the opportunity to see our loved ones as often as we'd like to. Now, think of it this way. Think of an advanced race, or what do we call an otherworldly government being in control of this world, where, say you want to take a trip to your, in my case, my daughter, okay? And instead of having this it's a big chaotic thing. Everybody knows this when you want to visit one of your loved ones. Now, you just hop into a universal realm transporter. Now, that universal realm transporter also transports right within this universe and in the realm that you need to go to. And if other people are living in other realms, you could also visit them the same way in this universal realm transporter, and it would be no bigger than literally a small closet. And all you would have to do is step into this thing. You don't need to bring any clothing other than what you're wearing with you, no toothbrushes or anything else. There's no forgetting your shampoo or anything else, because you just transport. And when you get there, what you need, everybody has provided this transporter at no cost, because it's saving our environment, it's saving everything. Now, once you get to your destination, you just order what you need and it appears, and you don't pay a dime for it, because it's not costing a dime to manufacture. It's a replicator, and it replicates things that are in the menu, like a whole store would be. If you need clothes, you just go to this replicator, you go through a menu and pick it out, and it sends it to you immediately. So you don't wait for it. You're not waiting for UPS, Federal Express, or whoever else it is. It comes immediately. It's in your hands as soon as you order it. It's there. So think of how convenient that would be. And, you know, those conveniences could be all of ours, and I would love them. Personally, I'm going to be honest, I would love these conveniences, these modern conveniences, and I've been in places where I know these type of things exist. The problem is we have a lot of greedy politicians that are in charge here, and all over the world, not just here, just all over the world. And the bottom line is, the way it's going, it doesn't seem like they're ever going to want to relinquish their powers, and so they'd rather chase these beings away so they could live like kings here, instead of having everything everybody needs. Now, if they actually wanted to create this, they could. It could happen, but they're not willing to talk to the people who can enable something like this to happen. They want to be in charge of everything. So until they can give up charge, and sadly enough, we all know the only way world leaders give up charge, I mean, either death or what other means. There's other means, I'm sure. Throughout history, people aren't getting rid of a world leader or warring for a world leader to go to have a free world. They're warring for a world leader to go to bring in another world leader. So they're replacing the devil with another devil to be. Okay, so that's what we're saying. If we didn't do things like that, if we said, you know what, if our world leaders were on board with this and said, you know what, why don't we work with them? Why are we always chasing them away? Why are we keeping them secret? Keeping them secret, you can't advance the world, because then people are wondering, where'd you get this technology? You've been lying to us all this time. So it's a very heavy situation that's going down here right now. And until the veil is lifted, so to speak, and it says that even in scriptures, the veil being lifted in the end. Okay, so until that veil is lifted, and you see the real truth about what we are and where we're from, and what we're byproducts of, and what's been keeping us safe from other invasions. It's not world leaders, I tell you that right now. It's extraterrestrials that are aligned with us. And until we can all become aligned with them and realize that they are in charge of us, and they did create us, and they are the ones protecting this world from other invasions from other beings, and we should really stop fighting them and start working with them. Until we can get to that point, well, this is going to be a lost planet. A universal realm transporter could also be a simple device that you wear like a wristwatch, and it connects with your biometrics in your DNA through a band worn on your wrist. and it doesn't have to be a booth that you stand into. And basically this device would transport you not into people's houses and places like that, or buildings that you need to go into, because that's a little weird, being able to transport inside people's houses. So you would transport maybe to the outside, close proximity, and it would only transport you to a safe location that you're within maybe 50 feet of the location where you're supposed to be, or 100 feet of the location that you're supposed to be. In other words, you could set a perimeter around your house through another device inside your house that stops them from transporting, well, too close to your yard. You don't want them in your yard. Maybe out in the streets outside. So all you have to do is, when you get there, is on that same device, you just say where you want to call, and you just contact the individual that you're visiting. Say it's your daughter, your son, your granddaughter, grandma, whatever, and say, hey, grandma, we're here. And she can open up and say, hey, come on in, God, good to see you today. Okay, well, we can only stay a short while because we got to go back home, blah, blah, blah. So in other words, they could live over, say you lived in the United States and your grandma lived in England. You could literally transport the grandma in England and go have some tea with her, and have some tea and crumpets, and then transport back to the States in another hour and a half if you need to, because you had an appointment with another friend or whatever. And that same device could also transport you to other worlds, just like, well, other worlds and other realms. In other worlds, it would be a button that brings you right to home. In other words, right to your realm and your home. It's preset for your location, and it brings you back, okay, right back to your where you are. But if wishes were horses, beggars would ride, and if people got along, this might come alive. Okay, I don't know what else to say. The problem is there's too much BS going on in this world between, well, people, politicians, wars, you name it, money, greed, and everything's about, a lot of it's really just coming around money, because a lot of countries are poor, a lot of them are rich, and everyone wants the money. If money is no longer an issue, if money became a mute matter, there'd be no reason for problems, because everybody would have what they need. In other words, you wouldn't even need money, because you're getting your items now free, because they're being manufactured, replicated by replication. So, and until you get together with beings that can actually show you how to do this, you're lost. As I'll reiterate, one of the biggest problems are the Illuminati, the people in charge. They're the ones stopping this from happening, because they don't want to lose their possessions. They love their houses, their businesses, their rule, their power, everything that it entails. They just love that. They don't want it to be what do you call a peaceful domicile for the citizens. They want to be the leaders, okay? And that's the whole deal there. They can't live unless they're the leaders. So that's going to be a big issue with this, with a transition like this. But there's always hope. You might get the right person there that says, you know, this is a good idea.